Here we are. Let me close my Facebook. We don't need that open. Here we are. Touch controls. So, yeah. So I have my tablet set up as well. I'm on blank screen over here. There we go. So, I can actually test touch stuff on that. So that'll be fun. Alright, what's up, Wizard? How you doing, man? And Horror Vacu, how are you? Alright. So we'll get started on touch. If there's anything specific you want to ask or have questions about or would like to see maybe a demo or something, I say just fire away and I will get to it. But I'm kind of just going to start with the basics and move on from there. I'm doing very well, man. Very well. So let's just create a nice, a nice sprite that we can do some stuff with. And let's just give them bound to layout so I don't have to worry about them escaping. All right. Hey, Wu Jahao, 1, 2, 3, 4. How's it going, man? How are you? Let me see how my event sheet's looking here. Oh, let me add the touch. There we go. Add some touch, and most of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory. I'm assuming what I'm probably going to really dig into is maybe acceleration. I don't really know how much is even used anymore. That's like how fast you like move a device, kind of like a Wiimote. I've never seen a game where really you're like flinging your phone around. I mean, I'm not sure who would want to do that anyways. So I don't know that we'll jump into that, although somebody has a specific question about it. Orientation we'll probably dig into. I probably won't use this. We'll use the actual expressions for orientation. Touch speed we'll probably dig into. A lot of this other stuff, you know, this isn't really stuff we need to go over because it's pretty self-explanatory. We might go into the nth touches just briefly because you can actually have multiple touches. So we can actually dig into that as well. So let's go ahead and give our sprite, let's give it the 8-way movement, just 8-direction movement just for fun. But we don't want it to, we don't want to set the angle on it because that'll look weird. Why Construct 2 for me? Well, I can tell you I don't use Unreal Engine because I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's C++, right? I don't know C++. I took C in college like 20 years ago, but never stuck with it. I've used Unity quite a bit, but I'm still not a huge fan of the 2D tool set. I know it's there. I know it's new. It still feels like you're working in a 3D environment with 2D stuff thrown in there. So for my 2D loving, which is what I prefer to make everything in, it's Construct 2 and GameMaker. So I pretty much stick with those two for everything. Construct 2 I've been using for probably close to 4 years. I know it very well. It's amazing for making projects, and it's also amazing for prototyping stuff quickly. So it's very beginner friendly for people just getting into game dev. It's very artist friendly for those that are amazing artists but aren't programmers. It lets them show off their work as they can learn how to make games pretty easily with Construct 2. So that is why. Alright, so we gave this guy the 8 direction. Let's start off with how about moving him by tilting the controller? Is that a good place to start? Or is that a little too advanced to start out with? I mean, if you have any basic touch questions, fire away. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of jump into some stuff. I didn't really get any questions from anybody on Twitter or on Facebook, so I'm just going to kind of dig in. Actually, let me open up my Word. My Word thing, what we talked about. Swipes, multi-touch, drag and drop, accelerometer, which I'm thinking is the orientation stuff. So we'll dig in with making this guy move around by tilting the controller, or tilting the screen. So on touch, we want to, now we can use this compare orientation. The alpha, beta, and gamma. Now those are the directions. I have to remember, and we'll do some testing, but I think alpha is left and right. Beta is forward and back. And I don't remember what gamma is. But let's mess around with them. Let's just play around with them and see what we get. So we are going to comparison of the alpha. And I believe, okay, let's do this first. Let's go back here and let's add a text box. Because this is important. Because you want to see what kind of numbers Construct2 is spitting out. So you know what to compare numbers to. So let's do an every tick. Let's set the text of the text box to, and we can go up here to touch, and then we can set it to the alpha. Alright. So if we fire up our device here, and I'm using preview over LAN in Construct2, so you'll see I have my tablet here. Alright, I'm going to fire this up. And I'm going to switch the scene over to my tablet. So now this is what I'm seeing on my tablet. So you'll see the number up top. So that's my alpha. So as I tilt the screen, you see the alpha changing. So having it straight up and down theoretically is 360 or 0. And then you see it, this is a 45. And this is at, 255 or whatever. So that's kind of our range that we're looking at to maybe make him move left and right. Is maybe 50 that way and 250 that way or something. Alright, so those numbers are important when we do this comparison. So let me switch back to this scene. And if you ever notice I don't switch to a scene, just say something, because sometimes I forget. Okay, so let's do compare orientation of our alpha. And we're going to say if it's greater than, let's see, so we were at basically 350 to, or 360 to 350, or I'm sorry, 360 to let's say like 340. Okay, so if it's great, actually if it's less than 360, all right, let me make this a little bigger so we can all see it. Is that better? How's that? Alright, then we want to add another condition. And the alpha orientation is if it's less than 360 and greater than 340. Alright, let's take our sprite and we are going to simulate right movement. Alright, and now let's do a copy and paste on this. And now we want to go if it's greater than 0, but less than, what do we do? 20 that way, 20. We're like at 45 on this side, so let's do like 325 over here. Let's just try that out. And we want to move to the left. Alright, so let's try that. Get my tablet fired back up here. We'll switch scenes. Oops. Turn it on there. Alright, let's make sure we're refreshed on here. Doo-dee-doo. Oh. Alright, so you see now I'm moving the tablet. Moving it too far, so I need to add maybe like 280. 50. See? Let's see how we're moving it now. But it's not quite enough to that way. And also, you'll notice we don't have any kind of a dead zone in the middle. So it's always going to kind of be teetering one way or the other. So we also want to add some dead zone in there. So let's change this to 280. Alright, so let's also add some dead zone. So let's change this to greater than maybe 10. And this less than or equal to 350. Alright, let's go ahead and up this to say 60. Alright, so let's test that out real quick. Oops, you guys did not see my screen there, did you? So basically what I did is I adjusted these numbers a bit to add a bit of a dead zone, about a 10, a number 10 in each direction, so about a 20-degree dead zone in the middle is what I ended up doing there. So let's, I don't know if this refreshed or not. Let's give it a try. Usually it refreshes automatically when you restart the app. Let me do that. Hello. Okay. Oh, my Wi-Fi just... Oh, the door got closed. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay. Yeah, when that door gets closed, my Wi-Fi cuts out. So let's try that again. All right, seriously? Preview over Wi-Fi, not being too happy. Yeah, my Wi-Fi just like... Alright, give me 1 sec. Let me see if I can get a better connection here. was all happy a little bit ago. Let's see if my other one connects better. If it does, I'll just use this one. Yeah. All right. Hold on. Let me plug in my other tablet instead. This would be a little bit easier. Give it a sec. It should switch over. There we go. Okay, this is on my Fire. So you'll see now that there's a bit of a dead zone now. So I can actually make it stop when I want to. Alright, so now we've got movement. Tilted it too far, so you see. Hey, Lemony Fresh Punk, how's it going, man? It's going real well. I'm going to increase this speed. Alright, so that's left and right, and we can even increase this even more. I can do this at like 200 and, 100. That'll give us a lot of play left and right with that. And then to move up and down, what we can do is we can do the tilt forward and back, and I believe that's the beta. So let's go ahead and change our text to our touch beta. And then let's test that out real quick. Oops, I forgot to switch screens again. Anyway, so I changed this text box up top to my beta number. So as I tilt the screen forward and back, you see that number change. So straight ahead it's at 90. And then it goes less as it goes back. And it goes higher as it comes forward. Okay. So let me switch back to scene 1. So I changed this from touch.alpha to touch.beta. That's the expression for our beta. So at 90 it was flat, right? So again, we want to put in a bit of a dead zone. So we want to compare the orientation of beta this time. And we want to say if it's greater than, so it got bigger as it came forward, right? So we'll say if it's greater than 100, so that'll give us about a 10 cushion. And this one we don't have to, I guess it's a good idea, I guess, to go ahead and put in a min and a max. So we'll say less than. If it's greater than 100 and less than, we'll start out with 150. Alright, and then we want to move our sprite down if that's the case. Alright, and we'll copy and paste that. And we'll just change this around to where it's less than or equal to 80. So again, we're giving us our 10 degree buffer there. And then we'll say 30. And then we're going to go ahead and move up when we do that. So let's test this out. I'll switch scenes. So we've got our left, our right, we got our up, and our down, so we can kind of, oops. That's the tricky thing with doing this on the preview test is not rotating the screen. So I think we want a little bit less of a buffer. Something's off with this here. So 90 center, but it's not moving until it gets to like 20. Oh, I see what I did. We want this to be less than or greater than. And let's set this to 20. Yeah. Alright, let's test that again. There we go. So now we can kind of, oops, spin it around up, and come down, go back up, left, right. Alright. So we might want a little bit, okay. We want a little bit more of a dead zone than we currently have. Because you're typically not holding a tablet straight on. You're kind of tilted. So, and that's all settings that you'll want to play around with. You know, that's the point of putting this text box in here to show you the numbers. So you can play around with stuff and get them, you know, just right as to how you want them. For the touch controls. And this isn't, well, I guess this is touch control still. So anyways, so that's a way to move it around using the orientation. Now the gamma orientation is, what is the gamma orientation? Let's see. Alpha is the compass direction in degrees. Beta is the device front to back tilt. If you're holding in front of you, positive value is gamma is the device left to right tilt in degrees. Oh, it's like this. So twisting it is your gamma. So if there's something you want to do, I guess you could do a game where like you're running and you kind of twist it to maybe look around corners or something, and then tilt. So, you know, you could do like a. It'd be cool to do like an X-Wing TIE Fighter game. Remember those games where you have like the crosshairs in the middle of the screen and you just hold your tablet like this and kind of tilt around and except you'd have buttons like on the screen, I guess. But you could, you know, be like a flight yoke is basically what it would be like, because you could, yeah. Anyways, so that is using the orientation of the touch controls. So that's pretty straightforward stuff, right? Did anybody have any questions on that before I move on to something else? I have heard of Godot, actually. I've looked into it. Construct 3 will actually have a Linux and Mac versions. So you can look forward to that anyways. Alright, so yeah, so let's, I'm going to disable all of this because it'll drive me crazy when I'm trying to do some other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and clone this guy. Paint him blue. Okay, and then I'm going to add a frame on each one of these. Bear with me real quick while I get this set up. I'm going to show multi-touch. So let's call this one 1 and 2. And 1. It's a big one. And 2. So right now both of these are 1s. Alright. So what we'll do here is I want to show how to work with the multi-touch. So I'm trying to come up with an example. So for example, in let's say, like a runner game, right? Where you're constantly, well, take a game. Okay, so I made a game where you slide your finger up and down to move your character up and down the screen, right? So you're sliding. Well, if you're touching over here to touch a button for a power up, then it's possible you could touch the button and slide, right? And you don't want to move your character when you do that. So you want to be able to determine whether I'm sliding or touching a button. So you can do that with the nth touches. So what I'm going to do to demonstrate that is we have these two sprites. And then when I touch one, when it's the first touch, it'll stay 1. And when it's the second touch, it'll go to 2. Alright, so we'll say touch. And it is triggered when a particular touch input begins. True if the particular touch is currently in contact with the device. Okay. Then we have on nth touch end. Okay. So on nth touch start, we'll do touch number 0. And then we can add a sub event to this that says touch is touching object sprite 1. Okay, so if touch is 0, so I probably should have labeled these 0 and 1 instead of 1 and 2, but you'll get the idea. We want to set sprite animation frame, set frame to 0. Alright, and we could get technical and actually set the frame to the touch number, but for now, just to keep this simple, we'll do it like this. Okay, and then just don't want to do that yet. If it's touching sprite 2, we want to set sprite 2 to animation frame 0. Okay, and we'll do something similar with on touch 1. Or we'll set this to 1. And we'll set this to 1. Okay, so if we go ahead and run this, let me fire up my device again. Switch scenes. Refresh this. Okay, so now we have our two devices. So I'm touching just one. Now you can see I touched 2. 1, 2. Why are they both changing? Let's go find out why they're both changing. I think I have an idea. Because I'm just doing on touch start. If a particular touch is currently in contact with the device. So if I have touch 0, and then, okay, so let's try it this way instead. Because just the touch start, that doesn't actually hold as you're holding down the button. So let's try this now. Here we go. Okay, so that's how you can determine how many touches you have. Yeah, it's flipping back and forth real quick because of the way we have it coded. Because I'm really quickly touching it down here as well. But that's the basic gist of how you would determine which touches, is with the nth touch. It's basically the same thing as picking an nth object. It's just each time your finger touches, that touch has a specific, I guess, number assigned to it. So you can determine which fingers are doing which for multi-touch things. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward too. And again, if you have questions about it, please ask. Alright. So touch is touch. I mean, the touch stuff in Construct 2 is pretty straightforward. The other thing I think people were wanting was swipes. And I can jump into those real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and disable those. And let's see, what's the best way to show a swipe? I'm trying to think the best way to show a swipe. I mean, normally you'd have like a big ribbon of stuff. You know, like, I keep doing that. Oops. Actually, it's some kind of a pattern on this, or else you're not going to know that it's moving. So normally you'd have something like that's, you know, extended past your layout, like so. And then as you swipe on it, it kind of moves left and right, right? So what we can do is, typically the way I've done this in the past is there is this speed comparison, but I don't like to use this because it won't tell you if you're dragging left or right. It just tells you the overall speed that you dragged at. So if you're doing like a game where it doesn't matter your swipe, what direction your swipe goes in, like if you just need to swipe to cut fruit or something, and it doesn't matter the direction, then you can just determine the touch speed. And if it's over a certain amount, then you know that they swiped. That's easy. But when you want to determine which way you're swiping, either left or right, then the way I've done it in the past is by comparing your touches. So I'll create a variable called touch X and another one called touch Y. I'm trying to think, do I need 4 variables or 2? Let's try it with 2 first. So we say touch on touch start, on any touch start. And you can also do this for when you touch the object. You could do that too. But I do on any touch start. I'm going to set my value of my touch X to touch.x. And the value of my touch Y to touch.y. So as soon as I touch the screen, those 2 variables are going to get set. Alright, and then I'm going to compare touch on any touch end. So basically when your finger comes off the screen. So the way I'm going to determine a swipe is swipe and your finger comes off. You could determine it by just doing it this way, and then I'll tell you what, we'll do it both ways. So the first way I'm going to do it is if you swipe and then your finger comes off the screen. That's a swipe. Alright. So on any touch end, we're going to do a little comparison here, okay? So for this case, we just want that thing to slide left and right. So that's our X. So on any touch end, we'll add a sub event. And we're going to compare two values. We're going to compare our touch X that it was as soon as our touch ended. And we want to know if the one that where it ended is less than, okay, so say we were here and we swiped this way, so, well, it's backwards on my screen, so say we swipe to the left, okay, so we want to see if our touched X, this is what it is as soon as we let go. If it's less than what it was when we started, then we know we swiped to the left. Okay? So if our touched X is less than touch X. And I probably should have named these something a little bit better, like start touch Y and start touch X. Alright, that makes a little bit. That makes it a little bit easier to understand. So, if that's the case, we are going to, let's say, move sprite 3. Let's see, let's move forward at its current angle, which is we want to move it at, so this is going to the left, we want to move it at angle 180, let's say 75 pixels. And then we'll do, oops, we don't need that. We'll do another comparison if touch X is greater than my start text. Then we know that we moved in the other direction. Alright, and we can test this on screen here. Oops, I did a Y in there, didn't I? Oh, yeah, not 90, 0 degrees. So obviously this isn't a fluid motion because I'm not doing any kind of lerp or anything right now. I'm just moving it. But you can see that it's moving. Alright. So, I mean, another thing we can do is, well, I haven't used lerp in a while, so I don't really know that I remember how to do it. So we could even do something like, we could add a behavior in here for, we could do a custom movement. Let's see, what would be the best way to move this? I mean, I would just use Move2, which is a third-party plugin, because it's simple and I use it for a lot of stuff. So I would just say sprite 3, move to XY of basically my sprite. So sprite.x minus 150. Y is sprite.y. I love Move2. I mean, I use it in like everything. So